At the Pulse Radio Studio down here at Boise State University. You are listening to hour number 2 of Blue Collar Sports today. Again, we run from 2 to 4 every Tuesday, Thursday down here at Boise State University. You're listening to Blue Collar Sports. Great first hour for you guys today. All NBA stuff. We gave you our top 10 current players. Definitely lots of good debate and discussion on that. If you missed it, it'll be on our Twitter at BlueCollarSR through Periscope. If you're tuning in through that, we appreciate it. If you're tuning in through the app Radio FX, we appreciate it as well. Any way to listen to us, we love it. But now, it's the end of March, so we're about to dive into some March Madness stuff, and man, am I excited for this.
Absolutely. It's been a fantastic show so far. Hour number 1, we have a bunch of NBA stuff. Now we're going to the college world with March Madness. Before the break of last week, we knew March Madness was coming up. We didn't know exactly what the seeds were going to be, and now it has happened. It occurred last week. Now we are we know the top 16 teams. We have the Sweet 16 matchups. We will have our predictions next segment of who is going to move on. But we've seen the first 2 games of March Madness. Has been incredible. One of the best marches I've ever seen, and I can't wait to talk about it because there's been so many great games.
Yeah, let's dive right into it. And first, let's go over. I'll bring up the standings right here. Again, if you joined our March Madness bracket, we sure appreciate it. As of course we do a tournament challenge through ESPN every single year. And this year, right now, as we get into the Sweet 16, Trevor is currently sitting at number 1 spot by himself. Madison, if you're listening, you are sitting in second right now, and then a big time tie for 3. I am one of those people as well, sitting at number 3. But I look at it, all the people above me have Duke winning. They seem to be the favorite, including yourself. Yep. But how does it feel to be sitting in first place right now?
It feels fantastic. I'm doing a little bit better than I thought. Going in, I had not picked the favorites every time. I predicted a lot of these upsets. I had Oregon in the Sweet 16, but I could still get the Elite 8 correct. But it feels good to be at number 1. Absolutely some scares. Duke had a big scare for me as I have them winning it, but a great game against UCF. We'll talk about that. Thank you so much for participating in our bracket, Steph. You did a great job creating it. We got a lot of good contestants, and I think it's going to come down to the wire because you got Tennessee, I have Duke, and it could absolutely go down to the wire. A lot of people got Gonzaga as well, so it's very close, and it's going to be very interesting to see the next couple of games.
Yeah, it's very interesting. The top 4 people right now all have Duke, and then after that, me and Keaton Davis are also tied back there. I got Tennessee, he's got Gonzaga. So lots of stuff still yet to be determined. But like I said, you can still get a perfect Elite 8, which is tough. I do have one Elite 8 team eliminated. That is Murray State. I did take Murray State all the way to Elite 8, then losing to Texas Tech. But the tournament as a whole now, moving to the tournament hall, I think it's been a great tournament. Every year there's going to be upsets. And I like upsets, but I don't like too many upsets. It seems like there's people that really like every upset. But for me, I like to kind of see the big dogs play once we get down to the wire. And that's exactly what happened. We saw some upsets early, but now we're kind of starting to see the big dogs again. But the Duke game. Let's talk about the Duke game. Duke UCF, obviously the 1 seed versus the 9 seed UCF. Did you pick UCF to win round 1, by the way?
No.
Was that one of the ones you missed?
Oh, I did have that one, I believe. Yeah.
Going into this game, I figured Duke might struggle. I never thought they were going to lose or come close to losing like they did. I knew they would struggle because UCF fits Duke perfectly because they have, of course, Taco Fall, a 7'6" guy who could just sit under the rim and defend the rim, and he did just that. And Duke, when you watch that play, they don't shoot the ball well. Cam Reddish, who's probably their best shooter, even he's struggling to shoot it. RJ Barrett doesn't shoot the highest percentage from 3. Zion hit a couple against UCF, but he's not the best shooter. Trey Jones is more of a facilitator. And so watching Duke play, they struggle with the 3. Everything, when they get going, everything's at the rim. And so Taco was sitting down there and defending that. So it was a tough matchup. But the finish, man, I'll let you talk a little bit about this, but it was one of the greatest finishes I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, this game was absolutely crazy. Close game pretty much the entire way. We saw very early how big of an impact Taco Fall was going to make on this game. Nobody was getting to the rim. Like you said, that is Duke's game. They're not a great 3-point shooting team. They're a pretty decent mid-range. Very nice there, but like you said, they get to the rim. Zion's attacking it. They really get out on fast breaks and beat you athletically. But with Taco in the middle there, no one could really get in there. We know before the game, Taco said Zion will not be posterizing him, and we saw Zion try and do that. Did not go too well, but it was absolutely fantastic ending to the game. We saw Duke down by 3, and they elected to go for 2. Zion was driving down and went right into Taco, who fouled out on that play, and then Zion was able to get the bucket, but then he actually missed a free throw. But it worked out in their favor. I believe it was RJ
Barrett,
who grabbed a rebound, put it back up, and they were actually up by 1. And then after that, UCF had 2 fantastic looks to end the game, and they were not able to capitalize. But it was literally inches away from them upsetting the biggest favorite, I believe, in the tournament. And it could have gone either way, but hats off to UCF for playing the way they did. They were absolutely fantastic, and they played the right way. And I think a lot of teams are going to see how UCF played against Duke, and they're going to try and do the same way. And it could give Duke some struggles going to the heading into the next couple of games.
Yeah, we even saw UCF go zone in this game, which I think is a good way to try to beat Duke. You're just going to know you have to hit the offense, or you have to get defensive rebounds because Duke's going to attack the glass. But I was watching the end of this game. I was actually working at the golf course when I was watching this. And everyone kind of put the golf course on hold. Everyone stopped and was kind of watching it. But there were so many chances UCF had to win this game. And the spin move from Zion, that's one of the biggest plays I've seen in a long time. That and one.
Yeah.
First of all, Taco, great game he had. But I don't think he should have even contested Zion there. Let Zion finish. You still have a 1-point lead. Just literally stand there and put your hands up. He went out and jumped into him. That's how he got the foul called.
Yeah.
And if you're going to foul him hard. Make sure he can't score.
Yeah.
But the biggest part for me in this game was the offensive rebound on the free throw. Because that, at the end of the game, you could not allow that to happen. And even after that allowed to happen, they get probably the best look you could ever ask for. The tip-in, it was right there, and Duke was inches away from losing this game. But hats off to UCF. I don't know if you saw the coach, his speech to them in the locker room. Very emotional, awesome speech. And hats off to UCF. But, you know, and we were talking to coworker Will Black, if he's listening, about this the other day, and I thought he brought up a good point that teams that win tournaments, they always have that one game that they got lucky, that one game where they should have lost, but it was a good scare. Mm-hmm. I think if I'm the rest of the field, especially if I'm Virginia Tech, who plays them next, I'm terrified of this game because you know they're going to come in angry. You know Coach K is going to get after them, and they realize they're beatable.
Yeah.
And I think that's scary because teams are always going to play better. The championship teams will always play better when they realize that. So I think this was a good scare for Duke early. I wish UCF pulled it off. But watch out, I think Duke could get hot now.
I think you're absolutely right. Duke, it's a wake-up call for them. Coach K is going to be on them all week because of that game. And now they're going to really bring it this next game against Virginia Tech. I would not want to be Virginia Tech right now going up against an angry Zion and Duke team. But I think it could be a great momentum for Duke in the rest of this tournament, as I do have Duke winning it all. But like you said, UCF had multiple chances to win this game. We're not able to capitalize. So yes, we feel bad that they were this short, but they should have done it a different way and been able to win this game. So close. We always see these teams very close to winning, but just fell short as part of sports. But that was my favorite game of the tournament so far, and we've seen some great ratings this year. This is one of the highest rated March Madness, I believe. I saw a statistic of in the past few years. It's beating the NBA right now. And I believe you don't want to put it on one person, but I do believe it's part of the Zion factor. I believe he is the biggest college basketball player I have seen in many years, honestly. A lot of people are tuning into him. Maybe he's not the best player I've seen in college basketball, but he's the most popular and polarizing player because of his athleticism, his freak of nature, his size. No one has really seen this guy type of player before. Breaking through his shoe, you've never really seen that, and being able to come back to this. It's been incredible, and I think the ratings is because of that guy. We are seeing that, and I believe that's why he's going to transition into the NBA pretty well. But it's been fantastic, and I believe Duke has been the funnest team to watch, and I have to watch every Duke game now because of that. But like you said, it will be a wake-up call with that game, and now they have to play Virginia Tech next.
Yeah, Duke, I mean, they're must-watch TV for sure, and big highlight of the tournament for me so far, too, Ja Morant.
Yes.
I've been a big fan of him all year long, but finally watching him on the big stage, he took over that moment, especially against Marquette, putting a triple-double up. First triple-double since Draymond Green.
Yeah.
I mean, that's big company to be in there.
Yes.
And then following that, I know they got blown out by Florida State, but that's a tough matchup for them.
Florida State's a good team.
Small school. Florida State's very lanky, very big. That's a Power 5 team right there. But Ja Morant still played really well. He hit 5 threes in the first half, and he's not even a shooter. So he really won me over. Zion Williamson, we're going to have more on this on the debate on Thursday. I'm a fan of him. I'm just not as hyped up about him as everyone else. But the big-time players have come to play. Jared Culver over at Texas Tech has come to play as well. Carson Edwards from Purdue put up 42 points.
Yeah.
This has been an incredible tournament. I think watching it, it's pretty crazy. I mean, every 1 through 3 seed in all 4 regions are still in. The 2-3 seeds are playing in every single matchup, and the 1 seeds are all still in. And I believe two of the 4 seeds, or maybe just one of them, or no, 2 of them, Florida State and Virginia Tech, a lot of ACC teams. Oregon's the last, and we're going to give you our predictions for Sweet 16 coming up next segment. But Oregon's the lowest seed at 12 still available, and Auburn's sitting at 5. So it's been an incredible tournament so far, and it's been really entertaining.
Yeah, like you said, normally you see some very big upsets early on in the first round. We saw UC Irvine win their first ever game,
Kansas
move on
State.
to the next round. That was great
Liberty.
to see. So we saw the regular amount of upsets in the first round. But then after that, we saw the big teams really take over the high seeds. And that's why my bracket, I believe, is doing pretty well, because those are the teams I'm always sold on. I'm not all about the upsets. I want to see the best teams in the finals. And I predicted almost all of these. The only one I had wrong is the Virginia Tech. I believe I had Mississippi State in there instead of them. But other than that, I've had every other game in the Sweet 16 so far. I did have Oregon up there. And I believe this Oregon team is really nice. If they had Bol playing, I think this team would be very scary. Even I do believe they could shake up Virginia, too. We saw Virginia lose first round last year, so you never really know. But we're going to have our predictions, like you said, next segment. But it's been fantastic. March Madness so far. First weekend was great, and I believe the Sweet 16, I believe we're setting up for some fantastic games. And like you said, the stars are showing out, and we're seeing some stars take over these games.
Sweet 16 starts Thursday, so it'll start the night of our next show on Thursday. But there's one more thing I want to talk about before we go off to break, and it's kind of something that a lot of people were talking about. But it's Tom Izzo, obviously one of the most well-known coaches in college basketball history, runs Michigan State. Got after a player, and it was really interesting. I think the most interesting part, it was round 1 against Bradley, and they were struggling. They barely beat Bradley. But it was a moment where they went on a run. They went on a 10-0 run and took the lead. All the energy was good. And then during a timeout, Tom Izzo ran onto the court to confront one of his freshman players, Aaron Henry. Got in his face, pointed at him. And then when they sat down in the huddle, got up again, had to have his players hold him back. And there's been a lot of different reaction on this, but I want to get your take before I have mine. What were your thoughts on this interaction?
Yeah, this happens in sports. You don't have to be... This is what it is. You have to have these kind of coaches that are going to teach you and be in front of you and develop you. That's part of growing and learning, is making mistakes and learning from it. I know sometimes players can react differently to different ways, so you got to know your player's style and how they learn. But sometimes these guys have to learn, and it has to be kind of nasty. You got to get into it. You got to let them know that you made a mistake, and you got to learn from it. And I didn't have anything wrong with it. That's if you're that type of coach, that is totally fine. I want my players to play for a guy like that. I want to have a coach that will get into you and make you learn from your mistakes. And if it's going to hurt you, then I don't want you to be playing for a coach like that. And that's what's going to have to happen. That's what you need. I believe Tom Izzo is doing just fine, and I like him as a coach, and I would want him to continue doing what he's doing. I have no problem with it.
I love that take, and if you guys follow me on Twitter, Scott Van Pelt, I'm not a big fan of ESPN, not a big fan of, I don't watch a lot of ESPN anymore, but if I'm going to watch ESPN, it's going to be Scott Van Pelt. But I thought everything he said about this, you got to go look up, great take, and he said a lot of the same things you just said. And I think what's really cool, what happened during this, when Tom Izzo was getting on Aaron Henry, you saw this senior, you saw Cassius Winston get up and kind of grab Tom Izzo and say, it's okay, we got this. And I think that's the sign of a good program, is when the seniors are comfortable enough, the leaders are comfortable enough they're of course, they're going to, Tom Izzo, the style of coach he is, but they're comfortable enough in that moment to go out and kind of say, Coach, we got this, it's okay. And Tom Izzo, I have no problem with this. Like you said, this happens in all facets of sports. This happened in high school basketball when I played high school basketball, but this is just a big deal because it was on the big stage where everyone could see it. And I think a lot of people that are upset about it are people that really did not play sports.
Probably.
And so they don't understand it. And we saw Draymond Green we saw Miles Bridges, former Michigan State players, come to defend Tom Izzo. And even Aaron Henry on Twitter defended Tom Izzo. Everything's okay now. And I think it's a competitive atmosphere. It's a respect thing. I think if a coach isn't yelling at you, and there's multiple ways coaches could engage with players. I'm not saying all coaches have to be yellers to be effective. But Tom Izzo is, and you can be effective in that way. And if you're that style of coach, he's yelling at Aaron Henry because he respects him and he sees a lot of potential in him. And if I'm a player that's playing for a coach like that, but he's not yelling at me when I'm doing something wrong, I know it's because he doesn't see a lot of potential in me.
Yeah.
And so that's going to make me more upset. But when I see coaches like that get after guys, it's because they see a lot of potential. Tom Izzo talked about how it was because he wasn't getting back on defense. And I guarantee you the rest of that game, Aaron Henry was probably the first player back on defense. So I think it's just a respect thing, and I have no problem with it.
Yeah, sports are very emotional. If you're not emotional while playing sports and something's not right, you shouldn't be playing. That's the way it is. You're going to see this out of every level, and that's what sports are.
It's how it's run. It's how it's always been run. So I have no problem with it. Tom Izzo, they will also play in the Elite Eight. They take on number 3 or in the Sweet 16. The chance to go to the Elite Eight, they take on LSU. So going to be very interesting. We got our Sweet 16 predictions coming up for you. You're listening to Blue Collar Sports. We'll be right back.